And welcome into this podcast as we had to get it going on Friday after the news this morning that Stephanie White is officially back as Indiana Fever head coach. Welcome into this Fieldhouse Files live show on YouTube or on the podcast, wherever you may be listening to. I know a lot of you are fired up, ecstatic about the news here today as the Fever officially hired their 10th head coach in franchise history, although it's a repeat. Steph was hired a couple coaches ago, and so she's back for her second stint as head coach and her third stint with the team, and very much again matches the similarities with the Indiana Pacers. Rick Carlisle's on his third stint with the team. He was an assistant coach and now twice as a head coach for the Pacers. Appreciate everybody joining in here on this Friday emergency podcast. As before I head out, I'm heading down to Bloomington for IU against Marion. Pat Knight's return, the former Pacers scout coaching the Marion Marion Knights back to Assembly Hall and on the 1-year passing of his father, Coach Bob Knight. What questions do you guys have? Appreciate everyone jumping on here. Eddie, what's going on, my man? Deborah, Low, everybody on here as we go live here for about 20 minutes or so before I head out. But I got off the phone with Stephanie White this morning talking about this decision, and man, she was ecstatic. I was so happy for her because you could understand why this was needed for her in the first place. And it starts with proximity of location. It's not just starting with Fever. It's not with the Caitlin Clark madness. No, it's being as close as home as it gets, and that's Nashville, Tennessee, about 4.5 hours, a short drive, relatively speaking, or a nonstop flight, especially now that Southwest is getting one coming up in March, and maybe there's another one as well. But yeah, talk about number 22. You're exactly right, Deborah. Something special about that, and the connectivity between the eras as well, right? While the Eras tour is here in Indianapolis, it's just remarkable, quite frankly, about what's going on and where they are headed. But I think you should absolutely have full faith in now what they're doing with team president Kelly Krauskopf. I do not know general manager Amber Cox. I have not met her. Look forward to getting to know her starting on Monday at Stephanie White's press conference. That will be held Monday afternoon at Gamebridge Fieldhouse. Before I get to your questions, let me add on to what I discussed with Stephanie here this morning. First of all, yes, ecstatic. It's back home. There was something special about it here. And what's notable about that as well is the fact that I thought when when Stephanie started her career with the Connecticut Sun a couple years ago, 2022, she was ultimately starting that tenure here in Indianapolis, back in Indiana, as she returned to the W. That was after half dozen years almost at the University of Vanderbilt, as she was a head coach there. She didn't want to leave the Fever back in 2016. That was in May when she agreed to that job. The reality is the WNBA is not what it is today. And the financial implications, like back then, you're getting a 2-year deal, only 1 year guaranteed. In the college dynamic, you're getting 5 and 6 years. That's very different. I'm sure she got a multi-year deal and a lot of significant guarantees in this deal, right, to make it possible. I know Chicago was chasing after her hard and made an intriguing pitch. I know other teams were obviously very interested. Before this recent addition, there have been 7 openings, 7 of 12 teams from last year. How many of them had to be after Steph, and for quite a while, I got to believe, because she's one of the best coaches in the WNBA. And right now, a lot of teams with rising cash flow and in this new era, not just for the Fever, but for the W as well, they're ready to take off and win big. And that's now the priority for this franchise. Herb Simon's been in on the WNBA for a long time, right? The fact that he was one of the inaugural franchises, agreed to join the franchise at the very beginning. Now, they didn't start that year 97, but he was on the ground floor of this franchise. You bring Stephen Rails in as 20% ownership in the Pacers as well. And so they got an influx in cash. On top of that, they are excelling right now, obviously, because of Caitlin. And what you wanted here was an experienced head coach in Stephanie White. You wanted a coach that has been there, that done that. She's been a long-time assistant coach in the league and with this franchise. That's the other big thing. There's nobody on a coaching standpoint, maybe Lynn Dunn, that knows this franchise better coaching-wise than Stephanie White. She's from here. She won a championship at Purdue, so she has big game experience as a player. She played with the Fever. Then, obviously, leading in her first year as head coach back in 2015, they reached the WNBA finals. I know because I was there. I covered that up in Minneapolis, and they stretched that to 5 games. Now, also notable, back then it was only 5. And starting this upcoming year, 2 big changes when it comes to the postseason. One, the finals will go to 7 games, best of 7, rather. And every team is guaranteed a home game. It was silly the Fever did not get a home game in round 1, and that is changing next year. Every team guaranteed at least 1 home game in the first round, as the format is 1-1-1. One other thing about my conversation I think that stood out here was she absolutely knows about the circumstances, about how they're in the spotlight. But guess what? She's part of the media as well. Right now, she's in Cleveland to be on the broadcast as the game analyst for ESPN, by the way, with Ryan Ruocco for Magic at Cavaliers. So being in the media, having big time interviews, having to answer tough questions, having to answer a lot of questions, having to stick up to your team, but also hold them accountable. Those are all things that Steph should have no problem with. She is very, very experienced in all of that. Absolutely. And so the priorities for this team now moving forward becomes adding experience, adding defenders, and adding size, length, especially on the wing. The Pacers could as well, as I talked about in my last live stream. All right, let me get to some of your questions here, as a lot of text filing in. A lot of text filing in about this situation, trying to get back to those. A lot of excitement, as you could imagine, about what's going on in the direction of this Fever franchise. Am I going to ask Stephanie about Nalissa? I did not this time. She's very busy. Was prepping for the game, was doing her pregame work with all that. So we only talked for about 10 minutes. I wanted to ask her more big picture questions and about this process, about being recruited after and seeing what the Fever and what this job entailed and coaching Caitlin Clark, what that could be like and all of that. So I already had that conversation. You can read that at fieldhousefiles.com. While you're there, go ahead and subscribe. Go ahead and upgrade to paid so you get full access to both new and archive episodes as well. I will ask about Nalissa. Just the time and place was not right for that. I didn't get into the minutia. I didn't ask about Kelsey Mitchell. I didn't ask about her ideas about going forward. We'll get into a lot more of that coming up this weekend as she makes her way to Indianapolis, and then on Monday at her introductory press conference to get a feel for all of that. Eddie says, what's priority number 1? Retaining Mitchell? Yeah, absolutely. I think that's definitely it. It's keeping that backcourt intact with Caitlin Clark and Kelsey Mitchell. You have Aaliyah Boston inside, and then you want to upgrade your wing spot and defense. But Kelsey, like Pascal Siakam with the Pacers this past offseason, that's absolutely priority number 1. And as I've reiterated in the past, is the WNBA has basically their own version of the franchise tag, which is called core. So they can core her. So unless both sides are not open to continuing on, or one side really isn't feeling it, I would fully expect her back. But again, when you have new front office and Kelly Kroskoff, as well as Amber Cox, plus a new coaching staff, throw everything out the door, because you have a whole new mindset, whole new attitude, whole new priorities. And so I think it's important, before we fully understand what their priorities and what they want are, to fully understand what they want and to hear from them. Katie says, very excited for this. Stephanie White's going to be awesome for the Fever. Yeah, absolutely. To me, Steph said it, so I'll repeat it. It was a no-brainer for this franchise and for her, and it just made all kinds of sense to make this marriage happen once again. Let's see. What else do we have? Would Clark be able to work out with White in the offseason? I believe so. I'll check on that to be sure. But I believe so. I mean, we see in the offseason the Pacer players are in, and we've already seen where Clark has been working out with members of the previous coaching staff, with Paul Miller and with Jared Simpson. So I don't think they can hold formal practices by any means, but I do not believe there's anything keeping Steph from working with Clark, or Steph working from other players as well. That's a good thing. You know, if Aaliyah comes in and Lexi comes in, and I don't know who all else might be in the proximity of the Midwest or whatever. But we do know, as I reported yesterday, Lexi Hall and Aaliyah Boston will be playing in the Unrivaled League, meaning they're not going overseas. They'll be right here in the U.S. TD Sports Card says it's winning time. Yeah, absolutely. And Kelly Kroskoff reiterated that. She set winning standards. They got away from those over the last 6 years when she went to the Pacers as assistant general manager. Now it's not just the focus, it is what they are going to do. Did I get a chance to discuss the change of play? No, I didn't get into the minutia like that. Those are all fantastic questions and such. But this was not a wide-ranging interview. I think I talked 5 minutes about this situation, about Indiana, about her love for the franchise and the city, and the pressures that come along with the job, and then Caitlin Clark. That's basically what I hit on. Yeah, damn right, Locked On Pacers, Tony. First interview with Fever head coach. There you go. Yeah, I saw ESPN doing that. No, it was with me. That was early this morning, so I don't know what they were talking about. But it's all good. I'm not trying to get caught up in all that. I provide work. I hope you guys consume it. I hope you guys enjoy it, and we go from there. Oh, my goodness, already almost up to 400 concurrent live viewers. Welcome to the party. I love that. Appreciate it. So much interest in this Indiana Fever franchise, so that is very much appreciated. Back to the questions I go here. What else? Where am I? Eddie, I'm glad you're not wearing the typical black hoodie or zip up. Yeah, about to go to the Indiana basketball game tonight. Not wearing this, but wanted to throw on something quickly here. Yeah, normally I'm in the black zipper, the black pullover along with maybe a black hat as well. But I like to mix it up, just like the Fever are mixing it up today, right? 3 things that still need to happen: trade Nalissa Smith, get Sabal, and keep Berger for Caitlin Clark's backup. That's hilarious. Sorry, I was reading a different comment. For that, yeah, absolutely. I think I would agree with a lot of that. The difference I will say here is let's now not assume Nalissa Smith is certainly out the door or anything like that. Again, you have to reset everything because a new front office and a new coaching staff here. Priorities, how they use players, relationships, all that changes completely with the coaching staff. So now with Christy Sides and her staff gone, maybe I could see one individual from that coaching staff retained. But outside of that, I think you're going to have a whole new coaching staff, some fresh blood in here, which allows for a new relationship. And from there, we'll see. I don't know what Steph just yet believes about Nalissa Smith or Kelsey Mitchell, Timmy, Grace, you name it. So we'll see. She did mention Aaliyah. She mentioned Caitlin. She mentioned Kelsey. And those are kind of the 3 foundational pieces of this franchise. So you would expect those to continue on. Total Rabbit is very excited, as you should be. This is significant news for the franchise. The Fever got serious. They mean business. And there's no slacking off. They're profitable. They're making all kinds of money right now. You have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity right now with Caitlin Clark, and you have to be ready to take advantage. You have to be prepared and in the moment. And again, I compare it so much to if you had LeBron come to your team. 1, you can't pay the player enough. And 2, you may never get another like it. And so the Fever have to maximize this window, whether it's 2 years, whether it's 8 years, 10 years, you don't know. But you have to go all in, put the chips to the middle. And I think by these last few moves, that's exactly what the organization, starting with Mel Raines, the new CEO of Pacers Sports and Entertainment, are doing. And notably, I will say, I don't think it matters one way or the other. I'm all about hiring the best individual. But I know Mel Raines has talked about she wants Indianapolis to be the central hub for women's sports. And what do you see with the Pacers organization there? Mel Raines is CEO. Kelly Kroskoff, president of the Fever. Stephanie White, head coach of the Fever. All women, all very successful in what they do. Ming, your insight is like no other. Thank you. Hey, appreciate that. Thank you. Subscribe to this channel. Read my work at fieldhousefiles.com. You do that, I can keep doing more of this, and I enjoy it. I really do. Also, check out the Fieldhouse Files podcast. Although by the signs of those new subscribers today, by the viewership and the readership, I think I'm also going to have to start a Fever podcast here because interest is beyond what it even was, I think, a couple months ago. This is revitalized, revigorated, I think, this Fever crowd and WNBA fans as a whole, where they see the Fever meaning business. And that's why I like this decision from the Fever. This was the only coach out there that they needed to go get. And so I think when they fired Christy Sides over the weekend, that signaled that they were all in on this and were going to make it happen. It was just about negotiating and also selling it to Stephanie White a little bit because she had other offers out there. And so it was not an automatic thing like that. There's some talking points you have to discuss and meet on money and meet on terms. Those sort of things you got to hash out. But I think the general idea of her return and the Fever wanting her, that was kind of made clear earlier this week. Did Stephanie discuss her goals for the year, make the finals, be a threat? No, we didn't get into that. Usually coaches don't want to get into that, if at all, until training camp, till you know what you have, until you know what you're working with. And they are a long way away from knowing what they have, right, with the Fever and this roster. You're going to have the expansion draft coming up. That's the next checkpoint coming up in December, I think December 7th or so, where the 12 teams can all secure and protect 6 players. So very curious what 6 players, all teams, but especially the Fever, elect to go with. Howdy, Justin says. Howdy, my friend. Do I think Erica Wheeler is going to get another contract again? Hard to say until we have these conversations with the decision makers right there. And Steph understands her roster and free agency. And again, I'll reiterate, I think there's going to be a couple free agents out there that say, I see that. I see Steph. I see a professional organization. I see the practice facility. I see Indianapolis being an easy place to commute from, centrally located. I see Caitlin Clark. I see the national TV ratings. I see how my family will have no trouble watching me on TV, although tickets might be a different thing because all games sell out. I want to be part of that. I think you're going to see several free agents do that. I really do. Next year's starting line, we're not even getting into starting lineups. Come on now. We don't even know who's on the team. We don't even know who the coaching staff is on, who is the coaching staff and who values them. Right now, we just know Stephanie White will be at the helm for the next several years at least. That's what we're going off of. All right. We got a lot more questions. Oh my goodness, in here. Let me see. Any plans for a gold jersey? Not certain. So happy, Deborah says. My heart is smiling. Fever are for real. Absolutely. Greg is a big Lexi fan. Absolutely. Hoops fan says, Scott, are you going to Taylor Swift? No. Don't have tickets. A friend got in the queue again today. 25,000 people in that. Caitlin Clark will be there. Lexi Hall will be there. I will not be there right now. Unless any of you have tickets, feel free to send them my way. I'm happy to pay you for them. I cannot get them. That's where I am, though. Downtown Indianapolis. It's Taylor Swift weekend. And I know it wasn't timed this way, but that's why I find it hilarious too, right? Because Stephanie White wore number 22. Caitlin Clark is 22. She's 22 years old. And Stephanie White becoming head coach, leading Caitlin Clark's team on the weekend Taylor Swift's in town. Hilarious to me, right? The symmetry, I guess. Evelyn says, what's the deal? She has kids and they live in Nashville and now they'll be closer. Absolutely. That's exactly right. She had kids with a previous partner who remains in Nashville. 3 kids, roughly 13 and 11. She has twins, or the latter 2. And so they did not live with her in Connecticut. She was up in Connecticut by herself. She was lonely. It was just her. And it's not easy to travel anywhere from Connecticut. I know that firsthand. I've been there 3 times in the last month or 2 times in the last month, 3 times in the last 4 months or so. You have to drive an hour at least to the first airport, which is Hartford, and there aren't a ton of direct flights. So let's say they have a day and a half off. Can't really get back to Nashville. It might take a half a day each time traveling. Excuse me. And so that makes it very difficult. Now, she can hop in a car, 4.5 hour drive at most, pending traffic, or an hour flight, right, on Southwest, or maybe a private flight every now and then, whatever is needed for her and her family. That's why that was so important for her to be able to get back here to the Midwest and all of that. So that's what she's looking at, and that's why that was a priority, as I touched on at my story at fieldhousefiles.com. Greg, go Boston, pow, pow, pow. Yep. Wrote about Aaliyah being an unrivaled yesterday, so be sure to check that out. William says, did they get rid of the whole coaching staff? Well, here's how it works. When you fire the head coach, the assistant coaches are no guarantee. They are no locks to remain in. My understanding is that a couple of them, their contracts will expire, or they signed a 2+1, meaning 2 years guaranteed with Christie and another one being a team option. So the good part about that is the Fever would not be on the hook for, that additional year should Stephanie not choose to retain him. So what will happen in this instance is generally the staff who is just coaching will probably would bring her previous staff with her. That's usually what a head coach will do. Now, I will say she's got at least a couple individuals, Austin and Breon January, the former Fever coach or former Fever draft pick and player, that should be in consideration for one of the other 6 openings. I truly believe that. But if neither of them get the head coaching job, I would fully expect for them to come with her here to Indianapolis. There's a 3-man coaching staff plus support staff. You have player development coach, you have other coaches. And so Steph, once you really settle in, and there's no rush right now, right? You have 6 months till the start of next season. Really, you need to figure it out in the next month or two. But I would say the previous assistant coaches, they were not gotten rid of, but they are up for reevaluation by the new head coach and Stephanie White. I think one coach might stay, but that's to be determined as she has those conversations with who she wants and what is possible there. When do you think she will make a video response to becoming the coach? Probably Monday when she gets to Indianapolis. Right now, she's in Cleveland. I talked to her from her hotel there. She prepares to call Magic at Cavs tonight on ESPN at 7 o'clock. I'm sure she'll touch on taking this gig as she's joined by play-by-play announcer Ryan Ruocco, who's the voice for ESPN of the WNBA. So a lot of symmetry there, and I'm sure they'll bring that up. But I'm not sure if she'll post a video today with Fever or what have you in their digital department. Do you think her salary is above $1 million? I have no idea. I would guess it's below that, but I'm not certain. Did White mention if the Fever reached out to her first, or did she reach out to the Fever? Did not know. But how I understand it, I think it would be the Fever. Because it was a situation where they were looking for a new coach potentially and seeing if she was even available. And so that's what you kind of do there. But who specifically reached out first? No, I do not know. Does this mean all the assistants are gone, or will it be entirely new? I think I kind of answered that. I think there might be a crossover, but usually it's an entirely new staff. Hopefully, I don't think trainer or PR people will change, but those are the things I always have empathy for and consider when a head coach is fired. They will be fine. They usually have a guaranteed contract. They usually have some more money guaranteed and a higher salary, of course. And usually they might land on their feet with another job. It's those assistants and support staff that you always wonder about. I touched on assistants maybe from Connecticut. I think it's likely at least 1, maybe 2 of those at least come over. I touched on the assistants again. A lot of people wondering about that. Where am I? I know you don't know, but if you had to guess, do you think Caitlin Clark plays in Unrivaled? I do not expect it. Will players from Unrivaled get to practice with the Fever before the WNBA season? I think so. Like I was touching on earlier, Greg, I think players can be here anytime and work out with coaches individually whenever they want. I think that's kind of where they're at. Sorry about that. But yeah, they can come in anytime, and Unrivaled doesn't get started till mid-January. And so until then, yeah, they're absolutely allowed around and can work out at the facility and such. Wishy says, love the content. Keep it coming. I will. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel and fieldhousefiles.com. Hi, any news with free agents? No, not yet. Again, you got to get the coach in place. You had to get the front office in place. And so now you'll figure out who you're going to protect for the expansion draft. And then I think you really zero in on free agents. Do you trade players? Do you acquire players? They're not right there just yet. And if you're Kelly Kroskoff and new general manager Amber Cox, you want to have that discussion with your head coach. What do you like? What do you prioritize? Steph coming from the number 1 ranked defense in the WNBA. A lot of that was players. A lot of that was scheme. A lot of that was emphasis. I know writing about the Fever's Game 2 decisive loss to the Sun, one of the biggest things I observed was their defensive versatility. They threw 3 and 4 different really good guards at Caitlin Clark. They even threw DeWanna Bonner at her to start. I think that's something they'll want to consider here is having good defenders, having length, and emphasizing that into the floor. I don't completely pin it on the previous coaching staff. A lot of it was on the players. They did not have good defensive players. Lexi Hall was probably among their best there. They need to upgrade personnel first before you focus on the scheme defensively. But I have no doubt that this can be a top 6 defensive team under Stephanie White in year 1. She went to Connecticut, was second in year 1, number 1 in year 2. Amber says, I'm excited to see where the team goes with all these changes and who they lose and acquire. Absolutely. It's going to be interesting. Am I covering the press conference live? If you mean streaming it, probably not. I will be recording it coming up on Monday. I will have interviews afterwards with Kelly Krauskopf, with Amber and Steph as well. I probably won't go live there, but maybe I will if there is enough interest. Do you think White will bring over any Sun players? Again, we're not there yet. Got to check out all their contracts, have to see the fit there. I think it's too early to talk about any players right now outside of the 3 we've talked about. Caitlin, Aaliyah, Kelsey. Outside of that, I think everything is open. Everything is up for grabs, and you'll consider everything: trading away players, acquiring players, bringing players with you from Connecticut, etc. Any news on the Fever upgrading practice facilities? The Aces and new expansion teams are fantastic. They are. I will say the Fever have a really good one. Now, is it comparable to Phoenix or the Aces? No, not at all. Those are our $60 and $100 million practice facility. The Pacers, for example, that opened in 2017 was a $50 million facility. Could they use an upgrade? For sure. Could they use the Pacers? I don't know. That would be one of my big first questions is, could they use that more often? That becomes a challenge because in May, Pacers have a lot of pre-draft workouts and you have guys in all the time. I don't think you really want to share, but it's something I can definitely ask and check on. But I do not know of any immediate focuses on a new practice facility by any means. The team did get a new locker room, weight room, trainings room 2 years ago, at least, with the renovations to Gamebridge Fieldhouse. The practice courts got upgraded and refreshed, so that is very nice. It's not one of the top in the league. I would guess it's middle. There were some very bad situations, including Connecticut, by the way. Not why she left, but Connecticut was practicing in like a rec center, sharing it with the public. One of a couple franchises that do that. Here in Indiana, she'll have her own practice facility. I'm going so fast, so much for me to say. And they'll have the opportunity to use that facility at any time and all that kind of stuff. So that's big time for them. All right, maybe 5 minutes or more here or so. I got to get going here in a bit. Vicky says, not a question, just wanted to say I'm excited for the future. And Caitlin, cheering from Argentina. Are you serious? From Argentina? That's amazing, man. That is incredible. That speaks to Caitlin and this Fever team now, where people are coming from all over. And that's why, while there is pressure, it's also something, if you're Stephanie or this coaching staff, you're really excited about, and you're understanding of what's to come, but you're ecstatic about it as well. Do I think the Fever will win it all next year? I would say no, not yet. But also, we haven't seen the upgrades to the players, so you can't say anything. Just on this current roster, no, it wasn't enough. It's coaching was not that big of a difference. Now, it will be a difference, but you got to upgrade the roster. Until then, anything you say there is just filling time, I think. Thanks for the update. Well put. Appreciate you. Thanks, David. Thanks for joining on here. Hannah Flex says C Squared needs her championship for sure. No, and I think she'll get one. I would guess it's in at least a couple of years. I think it'll take a year perhaps to turn this around. Even more so, you go from 7 wins to 13 to 20. But again, it just depends on that roster. So let's see what that looks like going into training camp, and then we'll have a much better idea of what this team will look like. Let's see here. Lots more going on here. My goodness. I'll miss Wheeler if she goes. Yeah, I think a lot of people will. She connected well with so many of you guys. I believe they are. I already read that one. Appreciate you, bro. Appreciate you, David. Taylor Swift has a song titled 22. Yeah, I know, Eddie. It's pretty funny. It'd be interesting if Taylor Swift brings up Caitlin to the stage. Crowd would go nuts. They really would. And obviously she's a big fan. Some have said, hey, will she get the hat that they do occasionally? I don't think that will be the case. Usually it goes to, a 5-year-old girl. And I think Caitlin will be up in a suite far away and out of the spotlight. She doesn't want to be in the spotlight. She just wants to be there. She's a huge Taylor Swift fan. She loves Luke Combs. She loves Drake. Those are probably her favorite 3 artists. Who do I think from the past coaching staff will be retained? I would give consideration to Karima Christmas. Her husband, Austin, was with Stephanie White up in Connecticut. Jared Simpson was a player development coach. Tully Bevilacqua, player, kind of assistant player development coach. So I could see them staying. Jesse Miller was previously with Christy Side, so it feels like those two are kind of connected. And Paul Miller, I'm not sure. So if I had to guess, I would think it's Karima Christmas. Do you think there will be a structure within the Fever organization to protect Caitlin from the bullying that went on? I'm not sure what that could be or what that would look like. I think they'll have a much better handle on the situation, on the attention, on the demand, and all that different stuff. But a structure, I'm not sure about that. What you might see is players more attentive or more immediately backing her up, like I think we saw at the end of the season after they were more familiar with each other and after the Olympic break versus the first month, if none of the players really felt compelled to step in or be the bully. I think they need a bully on the team. They need a player that's not going to take any shit, like a James Johnson is with the Pacers, that can both lead and be physical out there, but can also contribute out on the court as well. Rigwin says, can't wait to see what happens next. Do you know what's next? I kind of talked about what's next. It's filling out the coaching staff for Stephanie White. That's priority number one, I think, for her immediately. Then it's assessing this roster, which obviously she's familiar with. There's only 12 teams. There's only 144 players in the WNBA. So that's what that situation looks like. A couple more questions here. When's the press conference? Monday afternoon. Then I'll have it for you at fieldhousefiles.com. What else here? What's the chance Caitlin does a European barnstorming tour in the off season? I joked with that with someone, but I don't think she'll do any of that. I think she'll mostly stay here in Indianapolis, go back to Iowa sometimes, but mostly be here in Indy, train, focus on business interests. I know in a couple weeks she'll be down in Florida playing in a pro-am with Thionica down there, kind of in the Tampa area. Let's see. Do you think Clark had input as to what coach was selected? I don't know if she had input necessarily, but I would guess Kelly called her and asked, what would you like? Or what do you think of Steph as a head coach? If she didn't, I think that might be a problem because she's the face of the program for the next decade, hopefully. So we'll see. But I don't think she kind of let her steer it or anything, but I think she would be silly not to get some input from Caitlin. Do you think they offered Jenny Busick the position? I don't think so. I don't. So many questions here. Good job, Scott. Thank you. Thanks, Ray. How do rival injuries work? Could they run out of players in 3-on-3? How would payments work? I think they're still figuring all that out. You're talking about Unrivaled. Why would any Fever Caitlin fan want Carrington to come? She's a hater and almost blinded her. I'll just move on there. I don't want to add to that discourse right now. This is a happy day right now going on with the Fever. Who are my three favorite Fever players to interview? I assume you mean on the current team and not all time. On the current team, Caitlin's easily number one. Aaliyah's easily number two. Oh, thumbs up because I did thumbs up. That's hilarious. And third would be Temi Fagbenle. No question about it. She's fantastic. The more you inform us, the more information is accurate, not YouTuber driven. Please continue. You got it, Jasmine. Plan on it. Defense wins championships. Yeah, I would agree. You need offense, but you need defense as well. All right, a couple more here. Well, Breon January coming as well with her. I think that would be the goal of Stephanie's. I think that would be the goal for the Fever as well. Former Fever player. It's perfect, right? But is she going to be considered for some of these head coaching openings? I'm going to write about it coming up that she should be. Doesn't mean she'll get it, but I think teams should take a look. A former player, a player who is so good on the defensive end, a coach who specializes on the defensive end. I think she should be given serious consideration to becoming a head coach in the W. Maybe not quite ready, maybe needs a couple more years, and if so, I would expect her here with the Fever. I have not talked with her, though. Man, I'm cheering and following from Italy. Are you kidding me? I got someone from what? Was it Argentina? And now Italy? That's unreal. Give me Satu and Bonner. We'll see. Australia? That's amazing, Claire. Welcome. Here from the Philippines supporting Caitlin. You guys are unreal. What makes you so sure Caitlin won't be going to Unrivaled? Why would she? That's my biggest thing. She could go talk to Lily right now and probably get $100,000 for an hour of work. For her, they need more than she needs them. Also, if I'm her, I'm sitting there thinking, I didn't get a lot of support from players during the W season. Why do I want to prop this up? Again, this is just me talking, but I would be feeling that way. A lot of you love Sato. I want to see her here, nice and flashy. Welcome, loyal viewer from Tokyo. That's unreal. You guys are amazing. Can you believe I'll be watching? Oh, shoot, I lost it. Where'd it go? Can you believe I'll be watching basketball all year round thanks to Caitlin McMillan? I can absolutely believe that. Hoops fan wants to know, did Steph mention Nalissa? No, she did not, but I also didn't mention her or any other players outside of the pillars, outside of any of those. I touched on Bree. Scott, what happens if Unrivaled has too many injured players? I don't know. I have not gotten into that just yet. It's 3-on-3. I can't imagine a ton of injuries, but there's 6 players per team. You play 3 at a time. Can't imagine 3 players on a team get injured. I'm sure they're going to have contingencies, though. Will Caitlin Clark be at the press conference? I would guess so, but I don't know. She'll be at Taylor Swift a couple nights this weekend. I do know that. Will she be at the press conference? Probably. She's here in Indy, so that would make perfect sense. Do they have a backup, and how would these payments work? I think you're talking about Unrivaled. Let's save Unrivaled for a different conversation. This is all about Fever and what's going on here for right now. I think that's the priority here with Fever fans and such. If Taylor comes out in a Clark jersey to sing 22, the internet will combust. I think so too. The trouble is we know Steph. Taylor has all those special outfits designed strategically for each song. I would doubt she changes it up, but I don't know. All right, couple more here. Then I got to get the heck out of here. I like your podcast. So many fakes out there. I appreciate it. Thanks for your support. Finally, so happy. RA, I feel you. Mike, we need to fix the power forward position. Defenders were not helping off of Smith. We need a 3-point shooter. Yep, I talked about it. They need big wings. That's the number one thing. Defensive big wings. No question. Do I think Clark will have some fun practicing with the Butler guys? I don't know if she plans to. If she does, I'll let you know. Bonner has become a shot chucker. No thanks. Do you think Caitlin? I don't know what that question is. Hi, Scott. What are you hearing on the side of recruitment, free agencies, players under contract? I talked about this. We don't know a ton about players just yet. They're going to prioritize Kelsey Mitchell. That's for certain. Then we'll see. Scott, did Caitlin and Christy have a bad relationship? I don't know that. It certainly didn't seem like they were super tight or that they were best friends, but also it's your coach. I don't know what the best way is to accurately frame their relationship or any of them. I do know this. Could mean nothing, may mean something, but no player that I saw came out and tweeted something in support of Christy after she was fired. Now, when Steph was hired, Lexi, Aaliyah, Caitlin all posted something on Instagram within like 15 minutes. Here from Puerto Rico. That's awesome, Lillian. Thank you. Yes, we will definitely ask about Nalissa, guys. Do not worry about that. We'll get to that both one-on-ones or at the press conference. You can be sure that will be asked about. You can ask about Caitlin. It will be asked about Aaliyah, free agents, all that stuff, all player stuff we will absolutely get to coming up in future things. Right now, it's about them laying the foundation for where they're headed, and that starts, too, with the head coach, and so that's what today is about. The presser is Monday. Can Caitlin play pickup with the Butler boys, or is that frowned upon? I think she could. I don't know why she couldn't. You would risk injury, but at the same time, if she played anywhere else, it'd be risking injury. I think it would be up to Butler if that would be welcome too. I'll ask about it and see if that's possible from the Butler end as well. Can Caitlin not play competitive basketball for this late time? I would agree with that thought, Rock. The one conversation of why it might be important for her to play in Unrivaled would be to get some reps. But maybe she could go back to Iowa. Maybe she could play with some Butler and get some work in at the practice facility. I wouldn't be too worried about that. Tyler, appreciate the support. Do I have any luck tracking down what good costume was? No, I did not. Thanks for reading the story, though, at fieldhousefiles.com. Her account, you're welcome. Fever are growing astronomically. You're absolutely right. Any plans for Bluter to talk to White? I would assume so. They would have a relationship from Steph's days calling Iowa basketball. So I'm sure that's one of her first phone calls. It should be at least. TC says, I'm without a doubt the best source of fever information. I appreciate it. Thank you for following. Crickets after Sides was let go, new head coach, and it's a party to start work. Absolutely. I took note of that. I really did. Malika Andrews said Steph White's going to be on NBA Today. Yeah, she already was, but Steph talked to me before that, just before noon, I want to say. I forget what time it was, but earlier today. So that's already posted at fieldhousefiles.com. So if you want to read what Stephanie White had to say, you can go do that. I have all that coverage right there for you. All right, about to wrap it up here. Christmas is going to be great because Fever got some early presents. Yep. Hi, Scott. Left Chaka gave you a little love. Left Chaka. Well, I appreciate that, Left Chaka. Thank you. Thanks to anyone that has supported me or given me love. I really do appreciate that. If I were White, I'd absolutely consult with Bluter. Of course, you have to. I asked Christy about that. She planned to and did. Will you stream the live press conference? Maybe. To be determined. I will try to if there's enough interest. We will see. Yeah, Katie, couple more questions, I know. And I got to get out of here, so I will right now. Thanks so much to everybody for listening. I'm headed down to Bloomington. Pat Knight, the first-year head coach for Marion, has his team playing Indiana University in an exhibition game. Pat Knight's obviously Bobby Knight's son. It's the 1-year anniversary of Coach Knight passing away, and Pat Knight was a scout for the Indiana Pacers for the last 10 years. But a monumental day for the Indiana Fever, one I teased about, one I thought would happen, but it finally did here on Friday. Stephanie White back for a third stint with the Fever franchise as Kelly Kroskoff hiring her once again, this time to be her head coach and lead the Fever into this new era that she wants them to become a brand, to win championships and get back to those championship expectations and beyond aspirations. So thanks to everyone for joining here on live on YouTube or listening on the Fieldhouse Files podcast. Again, subscribe to where I work at fieldhousefiles.com. Subscribe to my YouTube channel and my podcast. Thanks again to you for joining me and have a great weekend. I'll talk to you again all very soon.